This is The Countdown, discussing tomorrow's news today as our top guests tackle the issues that matter with a sharp take on every story. And now, here are your hosts, Andrew Weeks and Onyx Duncan.
All right, a very good morning to you. A very good morning to you, and welcome. Welcome to another edition of The Countdown. It is the 27th of April. We're almost through with the month of April. We're going into May. May is a very decisive month. It's the Labor Month. It is our Independence Month, and there's a lot of things happening. There's a lot of stuff happening. We have the tragedy over the river. We have the tragedy on the Linden Highway, and the Linden Suicide Highway. We have so many things happening. Protests all over the place. The government is behaving out of hand, getting out of hand, and making a whole lot of wild statements about what constitutes legal protest and what does not constitute legal protest and all of that. And so we're going to be discussing that and much more with our guest, Dr. Terrence Campbell. He's in the green room right now. He's standing by. Onyx Duncan will be in a few minutes, in a few seconds from now, but we're going to get the ball rolling. Welcome, welcome. Spread the word, spread the news. Hit that emoji button, share the link. Let everybody come in, because we're going to have a very interesting discussion this morning with Dr. Terrence Campbell. And we hope that everybody can join in, can log on, and share the link. All right, share the link. All right, Dr. Campbell, good morning, sir.
Good morning to you, Andrew.
You're looking very good. You're looking real, what's the word, summery? if there's such a word. You already beginning to get into the summer atmosphere, the summer mood, you know. Congratulations and welcome to this program for the first time.
Thank you for having me on your program.
Doc, look, there's a lot of things happening. First, I want to jump right in to the Adriana de Young's tragedy over the river there, the murder, allegedly murder, still to be confirmed as a murder, but everybody's saying it's a murder. We have pathologists' recommendation of a young pathologist coming from the United States of America. One was put aside. We're now hearing that the family does not want the police to have no part to play in the investigation of this matter. What are your thoughts so far? What have you been hearing, and what will be your comment on this whole situation?
First, let me extend my condolences to the Young family on the tragic loss of young Adriana. In just a matter of days, a little before Easter and a little after Easter, we've had two major tragedies in Guyana. So I think it's a time for reflection by the entire nation. And there have been allegations that these deaths are being politicized. There have been people have experienced concerns that there is racism, even as those of us who have cried out in pain. We're being tarnished with the brush of politics and racism. This is a human rights issue. We have slipped terribly in the last 5 years, Andrew. Yesterday on social media, many people, people like to say the internet doesn't lie. And so yesterday on social media, many people resurrected videos of His Excellency the President, Mr. Irfan Ali, protesting and being vigorous and passionate in his protest during the election period in 2020. And he was able to do that without fear of retribution. We saw the police right next to him as he passionately protested. And I venture to say at no point was he in fear for his life. It is one thing that I say, and I say without apology or without reservation, that every time the PPP comes to power, freedom of speech is curtailed. Um, Immediately as the PPP came to power in 2020, you started getting feedback from people that, oh, I don't want to say so, I don't want to get Jack Veo upset with me. And that has grown with every day that they have been in power. And it was an aspect of the PPP from the time Jack Veo became president. Um, Swinging to the young situation, Andrew, I should have been able to say something immediately, but I couldn't. As a father and a father of three daughters, especially, I just couldn't. I lost my voice to to know, and we don't know the facts, but my mind, until we get a postmortem and we find out exactly the cause of death. But I have to admit that even as I took my morning walk today, I I walked in the shoes of young Adriana, and I'm thinking maybe maybe she was in that hotel. Not maybe she was in the hotel. Even as her father and grandmother and aunts and villagers and many people were looking for her. And what must have been going through her mind? And all the way up to her untimely demise. Um, if I see people criticizing those of us who are crying out, and I think that there's some people in Guyana who don't have a heart. And it's the same people who make allegations of turning this into politics and racism. They are the ones who are guilty of it. Because I don't see many of the protesters raising the issue of racism. They're raising the issue of a crime against humanity. They're raising the specter of evil that stalks the land. They're raising the issue of police corruption. I have no doubt in my mind, Andrew, that the reason the police did not do a thorough search of that hotel was simply because the police were on the take. We have anecdotal evidence that has entered the public domain of one officer saying he can't go in there and search because he would lose his job. And way too often, I had a post on Facebook um, earlier, probably yesterday or the day before. It always amuses me when I see business people, and they got to be friends with the commissioner, the deputy commissioner, the regional commander. I'm like, I've been a businessman for 30, 40 years. I've never needed to be the friend to these guys. That's not how the system's supposed to operate. If you have an issue, you go report it. The police supposed to take action.
That's right.
So this is a pattern of corrupting the police, and so I am totally with the family when they say that they want an independent pathologist. I support the family 100% when they say they do not want the Guyana police force to investigate this. And if the government is thinking of bringing the regional security system back to investigate this, I would be totally with the family if they say they do not want the regional security system. There's one, I differ with the family just in one regard, in that I would prefer Scotland Yard or the RCMP. I am not enthused at this moment to about the invitation to the FBI. The FBI has enough going on in the US. Let's leave them out of it.
Well, Doc, I want to play, for those of you who may not have heard, I want to play back the request from the family because I think, this is very important for them to make that request because, the police, the president went out there and he made all kind of statements and he made all kind of stuff, and, people, he was cornered when he was upsted by the same relative about what is illegal and what is legal protest and what is not legal and what is. And they want to say, you were out there protesting in the middle of the streets, Mr. President. Right? I have Onyx Duncan on the line. Onyx is my co-host. Onyx, welcome to the program.
Hi,
Can you hear?
Andrew. Dr. Terrence Campbell, how are you doing this morning?
Um, I'm doing okay. I can't say I'm doing good. I'm doing okay on it.
He's doing okay.
Yeah, we've been on the ground. We've been on the ground fighting here, and we're still going to be on the ground. It's been a battle, but the fight must go on.
Let me say thank you to all of you who have been on the ground fighting. And this has
Yeah,
been a fight over a couple of weeks, starting with Linden. And I feel guilty that I am not on the ground with you, that I'm on remote. But let me assure you that the hours are short
Mm,
to
yeah.
my joining you on the ground. Not the days are short, the hours are short.
Mm,
mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah. Yeah,
yeah.
just for those who have not heard what the family said yesterday, um, I just want to play that back for context. Here it is.
So I'm calling for an independent investigation. I don't need the Guyana Police Force. I need the FBI to come and investigate this matter. That will bring a lot of closure to me and bring justice to me and my husband and my family and my daughter and my son. We've lost all confidence in the Guyana Police Force because from the inception, they tried to tell us that my niece left the hotel, which she never did. They showed us footage that my sister told them it was not my niece, and yet they released a statement saying that my niece left in a vehicle. So we cannot trust them anymore to investigate, and we do not trust them. So we need the FBI to come in and do a thorough investigation, and our family needs justice.
All right, so Mr. Ali, I know that you said you stand with this family and that you are willing, you're going to leave no stone unturned. And so as a family, we are calling on you. We're asking that you bring in the FBI, request that the FBI comes here and do the investigation for young Adriana Young, who tragically was murdered. As my siblings, my sisters said before, we have no trust in the Guyana Police Force. We do not think that they're competent enough to carry out this investigation. And so we are calling on you to stick to your word and support this family by inviting the FBI to come and do the investigation for us. Thank you.
Anything else you want to say before we go?
So there you have it, Doc. There you have it. You have one reservation that you think that Scotland Yard, Interpol, or maybe some other organization, investigative body should come. But that recommendation can be put to the legal team and the lawyer. But Doc,
Not switching Scotland Yard, switching the FBI.
yeah, yeah.
I think the RCMP or Scotland Yard. The FBI is busy. They got a lot of things happening in America. Let them deal with the stuff that's happening in America.
Well, let me see if the really is a true partner of Guyana that will come out and give us the support. We have to see what's going to happen. Let me see what's going to happen. Let's see if they're going to come or not. But Doc, I mean, the Ghana Police Force again seems to do not have the trust of the country. What is the danger in that, in any state, in any democratic state, when you have a police force that does not have the full confidence of its citizens? What are your thoughts on that?
So Andrew, I come from the insurance sector. Let me drift a little bit. And there was a case many years ago, over 100 years ago, I think. There was an earthquake in Jamaica, and the earthquake caused a candle, I think, to fall down in a house that then led to a fire, and the house burned down.
Mm.
The person whose property burned down, they had fire insurance. They didn't have earthquake. The insurance company denied their claim, saying that the proximate cause of the damage to the house was an earthquake and it was not a fire. Right? And the court ruled in favor of the insurance company because what it was that the earthquake set off a chain of events that then led to the candle falling and the property burning down. Let me tell you why I bring this case up. The PPP from 1992 set about politicizing the police force. It made the police force an instrument for riots, controlling riots, and for doing the political will of the government. It degraded the crime fighting ability of the police force. This started as far back as 1992. And so today, and on the return to office in 2020, we sat down and we saw the machinations, how they moved around offices to put their aces in places, put the right people, Karen Bashad Soku and so on, right? And they put people whose records were not stellar. They have done the same thing in the army. They brought back as chief of staff a man who had retired from the army. They have appointed Mr. Hicken, who is beyond the retirement age. All these things have led to a degrading in the crime fighting ability of the police force. The police force is no longer there to protect and serve the people of Guyana. The police force is now there to protect and serve the PPP government and its cronies. So that is what has brought us to this position. That we had a police force that does not know how to engage with people who are hurting, as in the situation at Linden. We have a police force that came on a situation where a family was crying out for help over a missing daughter, but they were more focused on supporting the owner of the hotel. We have a police force whose goals and objectives are totally out of alignment with the needs of the people of Guyana. So we cannot be surprised when these things happen, Andrew, and that they will continue to happen until we must, first of all, we have to change this. It is my opinion, and I don't care. This is why it's political, because it's the PPP who caused this. I lay this on their footstep, on their doorstep, right? And so we're not going to fix this, to my mind, until we remove the PPP government and we get constitutional reform. The commissioners police, and I spoke about this maybe a month ago on Conan Show, long before the protest at Linden and long before this happened. I said we have got to depoliticize the appointment of senior officers as a start to the police force. Those officers are to come before Parliament. They need to say what are the problems that the Guyanese society experiences as far as crime and security. They need to detail what their solutions are, and then on not a simple majority vote of Parliament, but maybe a 60% or three-quarter vote, we choose and we appoint a commissioner of police, and that commissioner of police there's already significant protections for the commissioner of police. But when we have commissioner of police being appointed by an administration that is more focused on protecting themselves than the people, this is the result. This is the harvest that we reap.
Yeah.
The lives lost at Linden and the tragic loss of young Adriana Young. This is a human a tragedy at the level for the Young family, and but it's also a tragedy at the political level. And this is where our politics has led us. We must hold this government accountable. They cannot separate. There is no line that we must not allow this government to try to. And I've seen supporters of the government try to do it. They're trying to separate the government from the police force. They have had control over this police force, right, for 23 plus 5, 28 years. The last 28 out of 33 years. They must be held accountable.
Yeah. Must be held accountable. Doc, we also seeing the deafening silence from the members of parliament on the PPP side. Nobody even saying anything. The ministers came out there, ministers, Priya Manik Chand and the Minister of Social Protection, Dr. Vindi Prasad, came out and did not really fully condone or condemn this act, and calling on these police commanders of these divisions, not calling for them to be removed from office. They must resign. They pacify this whole thing. But they will not rest until they get to the bottom of this. What happened to the Henry boys? The same thing they said. What happened to the 20 young Amerindian children that died in that fire? They said the same thing. We will not rest. No stone will left unturned until this is. Nothing happened. The two that were shot there in Linden just recently. Same thing. Nothing will not rest until. And nothing happened. The system is broken. What are your thoughts on these government ministers with their deafening silence, and this serious tragedy could get out of hand and cause this whole country, this whole region to come into a situation that is what they call unprecedented? Their thoughts?
Let me ask you and Onyx a question. Have we seen Minister Robeson Ben on the ground there? I haven't seen any.
The Minister of Fire? We haven't seen him.
Thanks for going there, because that's exactly where I at no point, and I've taken time to review a lot of videos, and I've not seen Minister Robeson Ben. But when and I was going to the fire thing, Onyx, you were saying, I don't think I'm going to be able to. You're labeled as the minister.
Dr. Terrence, stop the audio.
Go ahead, Doc.
Yeah, he is the Minister of Fire. I like that. Because up until recently, the Mayor's Fire, he is there. Priya Malik Chan is there. They're all turning up at a fire. But yet we have these two tragedies. The Linden trial, I didn't see him there on the ground for the Linden trial. I saw the president went up, and I think I saw Bishop Edgell at some point. At no point did I see. Let me give you the quick answer. This government does not care about poor people.
No.
And I want to make it clear.
Not even the
they do not care. They do listen. They do no. This is not the grand ball that they have in when they got pole dances. No. This government does not care about the poor in this country.
Nope.
We see it in how they manage. We saw them in the budget. They gave the lower paid people a smaller tax reduction than the higher paid people. If you draw all the dots, this government does not care about poor people. And I'm going to say this. This government does not care about poor Amerindian people. This government does not care about poor Indo-Guyanese people. This government does not care about poor Afro-Guyanese people. This government only cares about themselves and their cronies. And Andrew, that is the answer to your question as to why you do not see them out there on the ground. They simply do not care.
That's correct.
And I hope I've seen a lot of Guyanese from all walks, from all ethnicities, crying out and expressing concern and disgust at what took place here. And I hope that it continues, that this disgust, it remains there until the ballot day, when and this government is removed. I'm going to return to this over and over again, because and if it seems that I am fixated on this subject, I'm 61 years old, and I want to see a change in Guyana. A change must come, right? Better must come, and so we must take the lessons. We must take the lessons. We are seeing, my father, when I was young and a little bad behaved, used to say, "Man, I take candlestick for look for a night for women see clear a day." We are seeing it very clearly that this government, this PPP government, does not care about poor people. This PPP government only cares about themselves and their cronies. They only care about the rich people, the owners of the double day, the sheriff, and so on. We saw the sheriff turn up. I mean, who was the president? I said I was going to draw an organization chart. It seems as though Amir Ahmad is at the top, then is Jazio, then is Irfan. That man turned up looking, the man turned up like
with a big Tesla vehicle.
The man turned up like a Taliban. He got the high look stick up in front, and the fellas with the balaclava or whatever around the face, and their guns, and they're hanging up on the outside. I mean, listen, we must remove this government and put a stop to the lawlessness in this country. We have to.
Yeah. Dr. Campbell, when we look at policy and governance, especially with this government here, and we speak about accountability, this government shows no accountability for their actions. What do you think? What roles a government, a democratic government, what role does a government accountability play in the current issue faced by the police force? Because we're big on the police force right now. Probably is one of the most failed institutions in this country. What role does that the government accountability play in the current issues faced by the police, and how do you see we improving that in the next 5 years? I think we should improve that in the next year or so, because if we don't, the Guyana that we want will never come.
Onyx, can I criticize you a little bit?
Definitely.
I got to be careful, because I would like to be invited onto the program again. You said government accountability. You cannot use those two words side by side in the same sentence. Not in Guyana. There is none. There is none. And it is a fault of, to my mind, of our winner-take-all constitution.
Yeah.
And the AFC has in the past has made this fixing this a part of the manifesto. And I know that the current AFC leader, Nigel Hughes, had done some work on this during the time of the coalition government. And I will be critical enough to say that I don't think the coalition government did enough to try to get that constitutional reform done. Constitutional reform has got to be done when you have maximum political capital. And as we remove when we remove the PPP at the next election, constitutional reform has got to be the first item on the agenda. Because we've got, there is simply, it's winner take all. You only have a 1-seat majority, but you are allowed to ride roughshod over the country for 5 years. That has to stop. But let me say, even without that, even without constitutional reform, any government that intends to serve the people would not allow a situation to develop like this.
Yeah.
They would not allow the police force to be degraded in the way that it has. This has been selfish, and this is a distinct evidence of a lack of accountability by this government. Because if you cared about the people, if you cared, when we did some polls, and the first issue that bothered people was the cost of living, and the government
Yeah.
doesn't care about that. The number two issue was crime and security. And clearly, the government does not care about that. So, whether we have constitutional reform or not, if we had a caring government, they would have addressed the issues in the police force. I would say, and even at this point, because the situation is urgent and it's critical, let us not forget the shootings and I think around the Suze Dyke area
Yeah.
last week, the proliferation of guns in our society. And I referred on Facebook to the sale of gun license. Under the PPP government, gun licenses are being sold now, I think, for $2 million. And the stories of where the money ends up. I wish I have been told of places where that money ends up from the sale of those gun licenses led to this proliferation that would shock you,
Mm.
right? The people close to people in high office who are involved in the sale of gun license, right? And so all of this criminality has now come together kind of a resonance situation. It's all come together, and we are seeing it manifesting its ways in shootings, domestic violence, and it's not that was not the only one. We've had other incidents of domestic violence, with deaths by through firearms. We have had we've had the killing of the death of young Adriana Young. We had the shooting. It's all come together. Now, if this government is serious, and even in this late stage, even in its twilight, it's serious about accountability, the president and the vice president would come off their high horses and say, let's sit down as a nation and come up with solutions to reform the police force and so that it becomes a tool of service to the nation rather than a tool of oppression to the nation.
Mm.
But we are not hearing that.
Yeah.
They simply do not care. What would be wrong for the president to say to those on the opposition side, Mr. Hughes, Mr. Norton, in the same way that when the Venezuelan ship passed through our waters, he quickly called in Mr. Norton. This is as much a national crisis
Yes.
now as when the Venezuelan ship sailed through our waters. He should be calling for Mr. Hughes, for Mr. Norton. The first thing, he does not know it all.
Yep.
So get together with national leaders of all persuasions and sit down and let's craft a strategy to reform the police force.
Yeah.
But you know what? Listen to me. Listen to me. And I am somewhat a victim of all of this because back in February, one of their cronies fabricated an allegation that I called him and threatened him, right? And the police received it and were ready to act. I have filed a report saying that's a false report. Go for this man. I've heard nothing about it. But let me say, it's a quid pro quo. Years ago, and I like to go to the Guyanese proverbs. Grandmothers used to tell their daughters, if you take soldier bread, you got to march to tune. When you take the businessman's money and he calls and he says, hey, I have a set of people in front of my hotel and they're claiming they can't find their daughter, they're disturbing my business. What do you think? After you take millions and millions and millions if a businessman did that, I don't want to be sued, so I'm not saying that happened in that particular case. But let's say something like that was happening, or you're in a restaurant, you say people are in front and they're behaving badly, you have to turn up, right?
Yeah.
When somebody came on my Facebook page and they reported torture at the hands of sheriff. By the next day, the gentleman was accused in a police report of pointing a gun at Amir Ahmad. Andrew and Onyx, you saw how Amir came down to Lenora. Would any of you, as a single man, even if you had a gun, go and stand up and do like this to the man? You gotta be out of your mind. You gotta be crazy.
Yep.
Madness.
You gotta be crazy. So, in the same way, there is a quid pro quo between the government and the senior police officers. Those senior police officers have done favors for the government, and the government has rewarded them with promotion. And now it will be very hard for the president to come and say, hey, I'm going to wipe the slate clean. I'm going to clean out the stables, and I'm going to bring in fresh blood and reform the police force. They've been lying in bed for too long.
Yeah.
They got
Yeah.
secrets for each other. But I will say to the president, because apparently they watch everything I say and observe everything I write. Let me tell you how bad it is. Someone working with an international organization made a comment on one of my posts. I think it was in relation to the same Adriana Young incident. And in short order, I understand, the government wrote that agency about the comment that their employee had made, leading the agency to issue a memorandum to all staff, right? So I will say to the president that if you truly care about Guyana, if you truly care, and I don't believe that you do, because when the aunt of Adriana Young was speaking to you, you were more interested in the cameras.
Exactly.
He was uncomfortable dealing with the pain, with the real pain. He's uncomfortable dealing with the real pain that was coming from the aunt.
Yeah.
So he turned to the cameras for help, right? But I forgive him. Well, it's not for me to forgive him. Let me say that if he truly cares about the people of Guyana at this point, forget what has gone on. Call all your cronies in the police force and tell them, fellas, we gotta make a change. I'm gonna pension y'all off and give you all a small piece. But we have got to bring in new blood. We've got to clean the stables. The whole police force has got to be reformed. If the president cares about Guyana, he wouldn't wait until he becomes opposition leader. But he's not going to become opposition leader because we know Jack going to hold the position for himself, right?
Exactly.
He will do it now if he truly cares about Guyana. He will sit down. He will come to the position that he does not know everything. The PPP does not know everything. The whole country in a mess. Rice in a mess. Sugar in a mess. The business processing, outsourcing, the call centers in a mess. Everything is a mess except oil and construction. They're not doing a good job. You don't know everything. This once, for the people of Guyana who are suffering, come, sit down, broad-based committee, let's put together plans, and let's reform the police force. I would suggest at this point, it's not that I don't believe in Guyanese, but it's been so long since we've had a truly professional police force that I dare say that no one within the current police force, the senior ranks, has any idea, or they might just have a passing familiarity of how a police force ought to operate. Gone are the days when Guyanese policemen were taken and given senior jobs in the Caribbean. I remember at least one police officer who went to St. Kitts after retirement. I think it was after retirement or he was on secondment to be commissioner of police there. But let's clean the stables. Let's bring in some outside help. Maybe somebody who has just retired from Scotland Yard. Maybe somebody who has just retired. You know what? There are a few Guyanese law enforcement people who have had senior positions in the United States and so on. They've been police chiefs and so on in areas. Let's get them in. They don't have to take a line position. They can hold a staff position whereby they advise. And we must go beyond that. We must go to the DPP's office because very often, even if we charge the people who have committed these crimes, they will walk free. I truly believe I could shoot somebody on Regent Street, get a good lawyer, and pass $1 here and pass $1 there and walk free. It has happened too often. We must bring in retired Queen's Counsels, King Counsels, people with good prosecutorial experience, and let them also embed them in the DPP chamber, embed them in the police force, so that law enforcement we can move it to a much more professional level, and that justice can be served for the Guyanese people. And if the president is serious, he will take my advice and act on it with urgency.
Yeah.
Well, I
Dr.
don't think
Terrence,
so.
sorry, Andrew. I just want to follow up quickly. I
Yeah, go
know
ahead.
Dr. Terrence spoke about the care that the president has for Guyana, and it's also a care that has attached the entire cabinet, the government. I've recently came from Betafawakton, and I heard on Loud Arn that the vice president will be in Agriculture Road for a meeting, with his supporters, and he has not went over to the West Coast as yet. He's not went over to meet with the family, and it shows how much this government care. He was on a press conference last Thursday, talking about all different things, and spent only a few minutes speaking about the Adriana Young situation. And information that was corroborated and was misinformation, I want to say. And we saw the posture. If we look at the posture of the president yesterday in regards to his presidential guards, the outfit of the presidential guards never been seen before. It's like riot gear they went out there with. How? And you've been going to your supporters dressed as normal as possible, and you're going to a grieving family with your presidential guard dressed like that. It's disheartening. It's disheartening to the fact that we've lost complete interest in not only the Guyana police force, but the entire government. Right? And when we look at the emergence of technology, Dr. Campbell, we have seen what technology has done. We have seen over the last 2 days how persons utilize Facebook, utilize social media to even come up with different theories of what happened to this entire incident. And the government and the Guyana police force has not used that to their benefit. And you also spoke about bringing in international experts to deal with the police force and help the police force to reform. I think that is something that we should continuously call for, because we cannot do it. The governments themselves cannot do it. We need international organizations to come in and help with police reform. But I want to also make this call. If there are persons listening right now and want justice for Adriana Young, I think we should go out at that meeting today where the vice president is going to be in Monrepo on Agriculture Road and protest because
They should stop the meeting.
Stop
They
the
should
meeting.
protest and stop the meeting because nobody
Yes,
wants to
because
discuss human politics and campaigning on state resources at this point in time. They
it's
should stop the
ridiculous.
meeting.
It's
Let me, I,
ridiculous.
let me say something, Onyx. And we haven't really touched on this. When we talk about the police, right? First of all, in relation to the vice president, he simply don't care. The president will feign an interest. He will go there is the public relations. We saw him more interested in the camera than in the those who have suffered, in the mother and the aunt and so on.
But look
But
at
let me
that, look
say
at that,
this,
doc.
coming
Look
back
at
to
that guy there. He's not even showing no empathy,
yeah,
not
yeah.
even hugging or holding your
That was it
hand, and
was
nothing.
Andrew, it was a photo op. It was a photo op.
He
Right?
just
And
stood
let me
there.
say I don't generally criticize the president because he's been a friend of many years, but I can't hold back on this occasion. All right. But let me say, we talk about the police and we talk about it simply in terms of saving the life of Adriana if they had acted quickly. But we do not talk about if they had done their job, that hotel should have been emptied. The owner should have been out. The owner should be sitting on at least the bench in the station. And no fire would have taken place.
Mm-hmm.
No fire would have taken place.
Yes.
It is a point of shame for me because I am traveling. I'm actually in St. Lucia at the moment. And yesterday I went to get some grilled fish in a little village called Grossy. And next to where the car was parked, there were two people. And you know what they were talking about? Adriana Young
Mm.
and what is happening in Guyana. It
Mm.
is a shame on our country. It is a disgrace on our country. And again, I'm saying to the president, because I know your trolls will watch this. Let them tell you that I say, if you're serious about this country, if you're serious about fixing the police force, it is your duty and not only that of the police to serve and to protect. Let us have dialogue immediately and reform the police force now. Do not wait until the next government takes over after the next election. At least let it be a legacy that you took steps to initiate the reform of the police force before you were kicked out of office.
Mm. Mm. Well, if you just join us, you're looking at the countdown, and we have with us our guest, Dr. Terrence Campbell. But Dr. Campbell, I wanna refresh the minds of the viewers, okay, about this particular guy, right? This guy, Irfan Ali. I just want to get the clip so that you can see it.
Andrew, I just
Yes.
before you play the clip, I know the clip you're going to play, but before
Mm,
you play the clip, I want
mm,
I want the people to understand what happened yesterday
Peacefully.
when he
yes.
stood there and spoke to that aunt about not protesting this and causing destruction. He
Yes. Yes.
actually forgot. He actually forgot because he was saying I block and then he remembered right away. So people forget things and they forget the things, the bad things that they do. It has been so it's been a culture for them that they believe it's true all the time.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yep. Yep. There he is. There he is. But here it is. Look at this.
Play the audio. Play the
This is the
audio.
this is the
Play the
guy.
audio of that one.
Okay, let me play the audio. Let me get a clip in there so you can hear what he was saying
Of the
yesterday.
inaction of the Guyana police force. Those persons who were there, I can't blame the entire force. Those persons who were there and the action, the resources that were used last night to clear that road at Lenora could have been used. It was your daughter, your daughter, your daughter, your daughter, your daughter. It could have been used, all right, or your niece, Bruce. It could have been used to get my niece out of that building alive. The owner of that building was allowed to murder my niece while we were outside. They were murdering her in there.
So, as you are aware, I've said there is absolutely no issue with all of us want the truth. There's absolutely no issue with the pathologist. The lawyer who is
Yes.
representing the family sent a letter about an hour ago to Mr. McLean. So the request in that letter is being reviewed now by the competent authorities, and they will communicate with the lawyer and that. So that is no issue. From day one, that was not an issue. The other thing is in terms of what took place
I
on
want
the
to get to
road,
the part where she
affected for the
confront him.
family,
Yeah.
they too.
The government will
Not listen. Sometimes we gotta put our position
Right there.
aside.
Just carry back a
And
little.
no
Carry back a little.
videos with
I,
you
I'm just,
Right
protesting,
there.
you
Right
being
there.
a scrape and a tug, Mr.
ma,
Ali. We are. This is not listen. Sometimes we gotta put our position aside.
no, this is not
And
position.
no, no, we gotta put our
Most
position aside
ignorant
and
president.
place ourselves into people's shoes.
I,
You got to understand, even those persons who were traveling, yes, they were inconvenienced, but they
Can't
understood
look the
the
woman in her
reason.
face
They
Listen, look
understood
at
the
his posture.
reason.
I am
We
totally
to
agree.
understand the
understand
I
what
totally,
she's
inconvenience,
coming,
I
where
but
totally
she's
agree
coming
with your
those
from.
people
inconvenience.
understand.
I'm totally agree. I totally
Trying to
agree with you,
defend himself.
and we will never
Can't
ever
look the woman in her face.
protest.
But
That
listen,
will
this
never
is
ever happen
President
again.
Ali legacy. Watch there. This is it.
And but blocking the road for hours is something that
Mr.
affects all the
Ali, I
citizens.
saw you blocking road.
I block.
Yes, Mr.
Arrogant.
Ali.
I'm just telling you.
Mr. Ali, there are videos with
Trying to
you protesting,
overturn
Ma'am,
you being a scrape and
a
a tug.
certain
ma'am,
Mr.
minister
Ali,
people.
we are. This is not listen. Sometimes we gotta put our position aside.
no, this is not
And
position.
no, we gotta put our position
I am
aside
not here.
and place ourselves into people's shoes. You got to understand, even those persons who were traveling, yes, they were inconvenienced, but they understood the reason.
There you go. There you
Trying
go.
to overturn a minister's vehicle, Andrew. You could
Yep.
imagine that? And listen to this. The fact that he was protesting a political issue, and these people are protesting for the lost life of a young person, shows how much, of a devil he is.
So Onyx, you and Andrew should go try and lift in any police vehicle and overturning it
Uh,
and see what would happen to you in
I
this
don't
day
even
and
think
age.
Nigel could save us
right
after
away.
Listen,
that.
listen, and I said it to the start of this program, I say it again. The right to freedom of speech declines precipitously once the PPP is in power. From the first day, you will hear people say, "No, I don't, I don't want to talk about this." I know people. Let me tell you, many people come and they say to me, "We agree with what you said, but we can't say it because we got a government job." I refer to them right in the international agency. You cannot speak up once the PPP is in power. They will come after you. They will fabricate charges against you. Wherever you're working, they will listen. They've been known to call employees and say you should fire so and so just because people are expressing their right to free speech. I believe it lies in the communist DNA that within the PPP, that this right, at the start of communism, they got something called
And
dictatorship of the
capitalism too,
proletariat.
doctor.
Listen, the dictatorship of the proletariat is, listen, it means just manage the poor people and get them to do what you want to do. And that remains in the DNA of the PPP. So he does not care about her. He did not, and I posted about this since yes. As soon as I started, I posted. He did not look at her. He turned for refuge. Cowardly, the president turned for refuge in the camera, right? He did not want to feel her pain. How can you how can you make effective decisions for the people of this Guyana when they're going through pain if you don't try to grapple with it and empathize with them and feel the pain that they're going through, when you don't try to walk in their shoes? Then this moment, people like to say, oh, people's president, this and that. But in this moment, we must play this clip over and over and over again, for it defines and shows Ir- Irfan Ali, the real Irfan Ali, that in the face of pain, this is the approach that he took. Let me tell you, I've written about this and I've said it on several occasions. I remember once coming from Suriname. You're driving all the way from Paramaribo, you gotta wait at South Drain, you gotta cross over Molson Creek, and all you want is reach home. And just as I'm approaching Tain area, there was a protest, I think it was by farmers, and they're burning tires in the middle of the road. Let me tell you something. The traffic had to stop. They said they weren't moving on until some minister come. The police did nothing. They just watched them. And we had to wait until the protest died down before a car could move.
Mm-hmm.
But that's in the PPP stronghold. When it's
Yep.
not in the PPP stronghold, all of a sudden there is gunfire. Listen,
Yep.
we're not a poor country. If the people need to vent with couple tires in the middle of the road burning, we waste more on that with the corrupt road contracts that we give out. Allow the people to vent. We understand what they're venting about. And as the aunt said it, she said the people in the buses that didn't mind because they understand what's going on. Every Guyanese, and every Guyanese has got a heart. Every Guyanese has had a heart. It's feeling pain today. It's feeling shame today. It's empathizing and understands what that family is going through. As I said, I walked this morning and thinking what must have been going through poor Adriana's mind from the time she was captured. And it brings me back to images of slavery and captured and held and then brutally killed. Oh my God. With all of that, where is your compassion? Where is your heart when all you're thinking and vexed about is two tires in the middle of the road? That's pure nonsense. This has not been his finest hours. And this, listen, when it's under pressure that you see the true character of somebody come out, and what I saw come out to the president yesterday, I was very disappointed.
Indeed, very disappointed indeed. Dr.
I
Campbell,
mean, listen, how much, stop for a moment. How much damage that little burning going to do there? This country loses billions and billions of dollars because of corrupt construction contracts.
Yeah.
You know, 50,000 or $100,000 will fix that. If that's what the people want to do, just to vent their frustration, let them do it. Let them do it. They are in pain. Do they not understand pain? How is he sleeping at night? You're not thinking about what happened to Adriana when she was held. What must have been going through her mind? In each thing, as they dragged her or whatever they did to her, and then they killed her. You're not thinking about the parents and how they run around. You're thinking the child was right inside of there. Oh my God.
Doc, I want to say be careful. They're going to say that you're inciting violence. So
listen. Onyx, I said to you, it is only a matter of hours before I will join with you on the ground. Yep. Enough is enough. Freedom is not free. Mm-hmm. Freedom is not free. We must be prepared to pay the sacrifice that we have to for freedom. Freedom is not free. Everybody in Ghana must understand this. We need to take our freedom back. Freedom of speech, freedom of movement. We need to take our freedoms back. Freedom to protest, freedom to associate. We need to take our freedoms back. And sacrifices will have to be made for the Guyanese people to get back their freedom.
Andrew, if you can pull up the Barriers of Freedom video that Muhammad Ali was talking about when they were protesting Pegasus. There's a video and he's saying that these are the barriers that protect us from freedom. That video.
Yeah. I'll get it to Doc Justin, but I want to get your call. There's some calls I want to get your thoughts on. I have not heard from a number of institutions.
Yeah.
They have the Gender and Equality Commission, quiet.
I think they made a statement. I saw in the Gender and Equality in the Chandapal. They didn't make a statement.
They finally did.
Late Friday.
Yeah, they made a statement.
All right, good. There are a number of religious bodies that have not come out and say anything on this matter. The diplomatic community have not come out and say anything on this matter. They're still quiet. What would be your call to those bodies to do?
Speak up or shut up. Very simple.
About everything.
Because listen, there's the movement has started. The Guyana Spring, we had the Arab Spring, the Guyana Spring has started. I am not happy at this moment with the way all of the forces that will take the Guyana Spring forward. I'm not happy with the coordination between those forces, but be that as it may, the Guyana Spring has started. And the diplomatic community, they have a way that when things get out of order, as people fighting for their rights, they come in and say, calm down. I don't want no calming down. They have the diplomatic community have a duty now. There is a time when you will see the American ambassador, the Canadian High Commissioner, the EU representative, and the British High Commissioner. They'll come together and they'll go visit the president or visit the opposition leader, photo ops and to talk foolishness. This is the moment. They have the duty right now to go to the president if they truly care about Guyana, if they truly care about anything other than extracting the damn oil and filling their pockets, right? And let us not leave them out. ExxonMobil, Exxon needs stability in Guyana. Exxon should be speaking out. Exxon should be calling the president. The bromance that goes on between Alistair Routledge and Irfan Ali, he should pick the phone up and say, Irfan, you got to do something now. This is getting out of order. We want stability. Business people don't like volatility, but they like stability. So Exxon as well should be. They're not going to come out publicly, but they should be picking that phone up, and I hope they've called them already. I need to see action. But my message to them, to the diplomatic community, and to all the agencies that have not spoken, right? And I saw the ERC, I think, went there. I don't even want to hear anything about the ERC. Let me say publicly, I reported Barra Jagdeo to the ERC. They came back to me and tell me, but first of all, I reported him, I think it was something he said in December. Then in January, he repeated it. He said, Terrence Campbell said Indo-Guyanese like to lie. And I pointed that out to them. I said, look, he said something else here now. They then wrote me and said, we don't find a problem with what he said. We think as two public figures, you guys should come and we're going to have a mediation. I said, I'm going to ask you a question. I said, did you take into account that on January 30th, he said that Terrence Campbell likes to lie? They then came. I said, yes, we should have a mediation. So I don't want no mediation. If you find that everything that I have said means that Terrence Campbell, the interpretation of it is that Terrence Campbell is saying Indo-Guyanese like to lie, then I want a ruling from you in the public domain that Terrence Campbell is a racist. Yeah. If it is that you find that is not what I said, and it cannot be interpreted that way, then I want you to come out and say, Barra Jagdeo is a liar. Don't tell me anything about mediation. I don't want to hear about mediation. You could talk about mediation, but you got to choose a side. You got to decide. Either Terrence Campbell is a racist because of the things he said, and it means that Indo-Guyanese like to lie. It can be interpreted that way, or Barra Jagdeo is a liar. Pick one. Don't come in the middle. So I saw the ERC went out there, and I'm saying that I have no time with the ERC. I have no time. And I did not comment on it, but I'll take it at this point to just divert perception and said that I was not impressed to see the representation of the government with the ERC at the UN conference on African people. But we're going to leave that aside. Let's stay focused, right? Yeah. So my message to the international community at this point, if you truly care about Guyana, these are terrible times. You've seen what is happening in Linden. You've seen what is happening with young Adriana Young. You're seeing the corruption with lands. It is said that there's been sale to cronies of hundreds of acres of prime lands. By my calculation, the sale will result in a value of 350 million US profit to the person who the land was sold to. Right? They are seeing these things. Let me tell you something. The U.S. Embassy knows every single thing that goes on in the country. They send a cable. It's not a cable no more, but they send a message to Washington with every single thing that's happening in the country. And they're watching these things. And you're not saying anything about it. You're not doing anything about it. Then it's either speak up or shut up. Because the Arab Spring has started. That's all I have to say to them. Don't come when the pressure is on and then say, hey, no, let's talk. The time for talking is now. The time for getting the government to the table. This government, this winner-take-all government, this government that does not care about poor people, this government that is, this communist government, well, they're communists when it comes to filling their pockets, but they're communists when it comes to oppressing the people. The time is now. Don't wait. The diplomatic community needs to speak up. All those silent agencies, they need to speak up.
This is your boy. This is your boy, Irfan Ali, in its full glory and power when he was in the opposition, and nothing has changed. Hear it.
Freedom. Yes, this is the barrier to injustice. And this is the barrier that is protecting a dictatorship in this country. Yes. This barrier is protecting a dictatorship. This barrier is keeping our peaceful people from standing up against a dictatorship. That is why these barriers are here. Today, this is the barrier that is safeguarding and securing a dictatorship in this country. That is what is happening today. Peaceful people are prevented to stand up for their rights against a dictatorship, and the barriers that should protect us as citizens is used to protect a dictatorship today. Shame on them. Shame! Shame on what is happening in this country.
And Andrew, imagine the arrogance that is being displayed there, and no force has been used against him. Imagine if force was used, what they would have said today.
God bless the. I've had many I have many problems with the coalition government. Many. And I was a critic of the coalition government because I felt that there was a chance that they were not going to be in power after 2020, and that worried me tremendously. Barra Jagdeo has spoken often of, he said, Terrence Campbell said the reason he was going to Anug is because he didn't want to see the PPP return to office. He's absolutely right, because I knew exactly what would happen when the PPP come back. But God bless the coalition government that Irfan Ali had the freedom to speak like that.
Yeah.
Let me tell you, and I'll speak personally, Terrence Campbell did not have that freedom. Terrence Campbell arrived in the country, and from the very next day, vehicles were surveilling him on January 29th. Vehicles were surveilling him, not the very next day, the Wednesday morning. I can't say they look out my house the Tuesday. But vehicles were surveilling him. And I've shared the evidence. I've told the president himself, because he said he called Soku, and Soku said they weren't surveilling me. I give him the evidence of the things that they did. And the benefit of the surveillance was shared with the Guyana Daily News. So he claims that that was a barrier to democracy. He claims that that was a barrier to the freedom of speech. I say his entire government is a barrier to democracy at this point in time. The barriers around the whole country. It's not just a simple barrier. And I'm not agreeing with him that that was a barrier. Because if there was truly a barrier to freedom of speech and democracy, he couldn't talk up like that. God bless the coalition government. And no matter how much you criticize them, you still had your freedom of speech. And listen, I rather less development. I rather less economic development. I rather slower development and have my freedom of speech than to have one of the fastest growing economies, and the corruption and the loss of freedom of speech is going on in Guyana. Give me less. I will take it as long as I have my freedom of speech. I cannot live without my freedom of speech. Give me less. I'm happy to go. I'm happy to go with less. Don't keep the bridge over the Damar River. Keep the stupid second bridge you want to build over the thing. Give me less, but give me my freedom of speech. Don't take that away. And this government is determined to take away the freedom of speech of Guyanese. I'll say it again for the third time. One man spoke about his torture, and he was reported by Amir Ahmad to the police force, who claiming that the man pointed a gun at Amir. The police should have locked up Amir immediately because they know that that's a lie. That man got to be crazy. A man commented on my post, one of my posts, I think it was in relation to Adriana. The person works at an international organization. The government quickly wrote that international organization just because somebody made a comment, maybe a supportive comment on my page. I'll tell you, this government is spending so much resources policing and ensuring that it denies people freedom of speech instead of serving the people. Irfan had his freedom of speech that day. If Guyana was a country that didn't have freedom of speech and didn't have democracy, he could never behave that way. And I ask him, he needs to free the chain from our necks.
Yeah.
I can't
Indeed.
breathe because of how he's trying to choke us off. The country cannot breathe how he's trying to restrict our freedom of speech. Guyana needs the freedom of speech back. The only person that got freedom of speech is the government and the friends like Amir Ahmad and the sheriff.
Mhm.
Indeed, freedom of speech. And before we go, Doc, we have some other matters that we want to discuss quickly, not long, in 10, 15 minutes or so. We have the elections coming. We have GCOM standing there as a not transparent body. We have a lot of
Obstacle,
we have a
As
lot
a,
of
as a,
obstacle to democracy.
GCOM is there as a body to ensure the re-election or to try to guarantee the re-election of Irfan Ali, of Barajak, you and Irfan Ali. Let me put them in the correct order.
But how do we stop that from happening? How do we prevent that try that you're talking about from not happening? So for them to corrupt and rig this election, because they're the one that saw that the coalition wants to rig, but they're the biggest rigger.
Let me say this. And some people, we must continue the call for biometrics.
Yeah.
But I'm a realist. And we have to plan, we have to hope for the best and plan for the worst, that we may not get the biometrics in time for this next election. And I believe that the opposition should have been pressing for biometrics from August 6, 2020. You know, foreign capitals should have been visited, Commonwealth Secretariat and so on, Carter Center. So we have to prepare for the fact that there may not be biometrics. But the opposition, whether there is one or two parts or even three parts to the opposition, must ensure that we have thousands of Irfan Alis. The Irfan, as the aunt said, the scrape-head and thuggish Irfan. We must have them at every polling booth.
Yeah.
Vigilant, vigilant. I'm taking that from VPAC. We must have them vigilant in every polling booth and demanding to see identification, taking notes, and we must have the mechanism for them to report issues and when something is happening that seems not to be correct, to stand up and behave the same way Irfan behave at that barrier. We have to be prepared to protect our democracy. The people are fed up of this PPP government. There are many people, a majority of the people of Guyana are fed up with this PPP government. But they will try to still return themselves through jiggery-poogery, through rigging at the ballot box. And I can call them out. They can't tell me nothing but rigging. I never rig a thing in my life. So we must be vigilant. In the event that we do not get biometrics, we must be at every single polling station. And we must have the communication systems and so on. And when they try their tricks, we must behave like the scrapehead and thugs, the same way that their fan behaved there.
Do you think that the prospect of a coalition is the best choice for Guyana to win these coming elections, and that we should have the same coalition or a new coalition?
Absolutely.
Of people.
Yeah, absolutely, the coalition is the best way to remove the. Okay, yeah, thank you. Yeah, the coalition is the best way to remove the PPP government. I know it's a source of disappointment to many who are supportive of the opposition that there is no coalition as yet in place. But let me say that the passing one way in which the leaders of the opposition can honor the memory of Adriana Young. I want to say this again. One way in which the leaders of the opposition can honor the memory of Adriana Young is to take a step back, make it less about self and more about the people. And come together without precondition. Without precondition. There have been too many preconditions. Come together without precondition to form a coalition to throw the PPP out of office. It is the only way, well, it's one of the ways in which we can truly honor the memory of that young girl who suffered so much. It must no longer be about I or me or I only or only me. It's got to be about the people.
Do you think
I
Mohammed should be a
am.
part of that? Do you think that Mohammed should be a part of that coalition to form that national unity coalition to get rid of the PPP? Because he's popular right now. He's also in the air, like Nigel. He's on the ground with like yesterday when Nigel was in
all like-minded
Nigel was
opposition parties, Andrew.
Perica,
Feedback,
yes.
everybody.
Yes. Nigel was in Perica. He was right there with Nigel as well. So, I mean, do you think that should be a part of the coalition as well? Your thoughts?
My understanding is that the Mohammedans, as far as political entry into the political domain is concerned, had a preference for going it alone. That was my understanding. So I don't want to prejudge the situation. I would prefer to have a direct chat with the Mohammeds before I engage in further comment on this. But I will, if Onyx will allow me to plagiarize a little. Luckily, I'm out of university, so I can get penalized. I think a coalition of all like-minded people. It has also been called a coalition of the willing. Should be put together. My preference is for an absolutely clean coalition. When I say absolutely clean coalition, one untainted by sins of the past. To face the PPP, and I can tell you, I can assure you that many of the elements of the opposition are all in agreement on a coalition. Not all of the elements, but many of those elements, and you are going to see that evolve over the next couple of days. And I will jump ahead of myself and say that Onyx's name was mentioned as one of the people who will work particularly hard in that coalition, that you could depend on. But listen, I don't know if I ever met Onyx in person.
No, sir.
But we have spoken on Facebook. And I can tell you in the discussions about that coalition and discussions about mobilizing, your name was mentioned as someone with the capacity to help that coalition deliver. So to answer your question on the Mohammeds, I don't want to prejudge the situation. I prefer to talk with them. I'm pretty sure that I will have conversation. There is nobody. I don't care when they kill Sankar. I don't know who the hell they killed Sankar is. This new person that the PVP rolled out. There is nobody who will stop Terrence Campbell, right, from having a conversation with anyone. If I want to call me tomorrow, he knows my number, and he wants to talk about how we reform the police force. The people are gathered something. I will talk with him. But as far as the Mohammeds, I will I will try to have a conversation with them, and I don't think that they're opposed to having a conversation with me. But I don't want to prejudge those conversations by saying whether they'll be part or not a part of this. In fact, and the way people felt last week, Wednesday,
I'm
by
glad you talked about
Thursday
that.
morning, by Thursday morning, people felt completely different.
Yeah.
If I disliked Onyx intensely on Wednesday, Thursday morning when I heard that when I saw that Adriana's body was in the pool and I saw her father jump over there and swim, I had that experience. My son started learning to swim, and not well, he didn't know enough, probably treading water, didn't swim for a year. Took him back to the pool. The little guy run and jump off and jump straight into the deep end and then start shouting for daddy. I was overboard, all my clothes and everything. I lived that. I got my
Mm-hmm.
son out. That guy didn't get his daughter out. Her father did not get his. It was a lifeless body. So even if I hated every single bone in Onyx on Wednesday, the mere fact that Onyx wants to see the BPP gone, wants a change to come to Guyana, a permanent change, a change where people have their freedoms back, a change where we remove corruption, a change where we deliver for the poor people in Guyana, a change where not all the money is just flowing to foreign capitals. And as long as Onyx wants to see that a change where we no longer have to suffer blackouts, right? As long as a change where we could see people windows open without worrying if a bandit going to come in. A change where our young people could find jobs and get a proper education, whether it's academic or vocational. As long as those are the changes that Onyx wants to say, I don't care whether if I hated him on Wednesday, by Thursday morning after I saw what happened, me and Onyx is partners.
Yeah.
Me
Yeah.
and Onyx is partners.
Dr.
So,
Campbell.
so I don't know how the Mohammeds felt on Wednesday
There's you.
about being in a coalition or whether they wanted to run alone. But I would not be surprised if by Thursday when they saw what happened, they say, "Here, all bets are off. We just got to get these people out."
Yep. Yep. Dr. Campbell, my final thoughts. I know we're wrapping up, and everything that you said prior on every platform that I've been on for the last week on our last radio show, Future Forward. I said it. I said if the People's Progressive Party Civic thought that they had this 2025 elections in their hands and ready to go for the next 5 years, prior Thursday, they have lost all hope and they're in the most critical position. And for them to change that, they have to do the wonders. They have to do more than stuffing ballot boxes to change that. Because these people that didn't have a voice prior Thursday, have had a voice in Facebook, I've had a voice in social media. I've seen people on Facebook saying that I spoke about an issue, I spoke about the incident with Adriana, and my workplace is telling me to send in my resignation. That's to show that people are speaking out. And I also want to leave with you. I know you said you're going to meet with T. Mohammeds. Just look out for the picture that's saying that
I hope so.
presidential
I hope to
candidates.
meet them, and I'm saying, I hope to meet with them, and I'm saying that nobody in Guyana, there's nothing in the sanctions that say I can't have a conversation with another human being in Guyana. I will speak with them. Nobody will stop me speaking with
But
them. I
what
will
I'm
speak with
saying
them as long as
is
they will
look out
speak
for
with
the
me.
picture.
And there is nothing that I've heard or understand that they will not speak with me. So we will speak. To hell, whoever vex. Nikhil Sankar could write what you want, the foolishness that he wants. Yeah.
But I'm saying, look out for the picture. Presidential candidate Azruddin Mohammed and prime ministerial candidate Mr. Dr. Terrence Campbell. Look out for it. They're just waiting. They have it there, waiting for to post it. Don't worry.
Gentlemen, it has been a great conversation this morning. It's 11:32. We have another show coming up with the opposition leader and Mr. Marvin Williams on the other side of this broadcast. We want to thank you, Dr. Campbell, for being on the show this morning. We have to have a part 2 because we have not even spoken about regional governance. That's another story there. There's a big story going on in there with procurement and all kind of thing going on in those RDCs and NDCs that we haven't even talked about yet. But that's another show. Yeah?
Well, let me say when I kicked it down because I was traveling, I had an event last week, Sunday in London, and when I said let's do it this Sunday, I had absolutely neither you nor I had any idea of the events that would take place and that will dominate our discussions today. Again, as I started, I want to end. My heart is with my thoughts, my heart, my prayers are with the young family. I hope that I'll be able to meet with them and not just express my condolences and my sympathy via this program, but also directly. And thanks for the work that you guys are doing. Thanks for being on the ground. I feel guilty I haven't been there, but it's not theirs, it's ours before we'll stand side by side and go into this fight to remove the PPP. Freedom is not free. Thank you, guys.
Thank you so much, Dr. Campbell, for being in the program this morning. And that's it, Onyx. That's it for this morning.
Final thing before we close off. We will be in Melanie at 1 p.m. today, and I will urge all persons that will be out at Melanie that will be going to Agriculture Road at 3 p.m. at Ariram's residence, where the vice president will be, and we will protest the vice president because of his actions or his inactions to the current situation in this country.
Thank you so much, Onyx. That's it for our program this morning, guys. Stay on the call because we have a lot more coming up this week. We have Parliament. We have Parliament tomorrow, and we have more. We have wake coming up for the Adriana family coming up as well. We have a funeral to plan. We have investigations to be done. We have
postmortem will be done tomorrow.
Right. We have persons who have to be held accountable for these crimes. So stay tuned to the call. We have lots more to come in the coming days right here on these channels as we bring you updates on this matter and more. So that's it. We're going to see you right back here next week for another edition called The Countdown.